concept of time. Concept of time has us all fucked, and on top of that, life ain't nothing but a traffic jam.
I also think of time as this prison. Time makes us all a prisoner of the present, forever transitioning from our own past into an unknown future. And that's particularly disturbing to me because we can move back and forth in any other coordinate. You know, up and down, left and right, forward and back, but we're stuck in time.
Everybody, thanks for watching and thanks for taking the time to support and purchase. And welcome to Time. This is a video I've been wanting to put out for a while, but it's basically in place with everything we have been talking about. And it's going to fit right in and help, connect a lot of dots. Talk about time a lot in previous videos, but I really wanted to show you guys those clips earlier in the beginning of the video to get you to really understand that the concept of time is something that we've talked about and people have talked about for a long time. It's something that really puzzles a lot of physicists, science enthusiasts, scientists, astrologers, and philosophers. A lot of people have written about time and just really tried to really understand what exactly it is, and they've come to many different conclusions. And me personally, I've seen a lot of videos about time and read a lot of articles and through a lot of books on time, and to me, just there's not really too many people that have it right, that really gets it to me. So I really wanted to really get into this because I get questions about this, and I really want to touch on this and get people to understand what this stuff is and that it's not what we think it is. But again, thank you guys for purchasing. Thanks to everybody who's supporting the clothing right now. This is like one of the prototypes for the shirts that I sell. It's not perfect. It has a little flaws and imperfections, but if you ordered this shirt, you got a perfect one. This is one of the prototypes, one of the first ones that came out. So I'm just wearing it now to show you guys. This is actually smaller on the real shirts, a little bit smaller than this, but yeah, it's a nice shirt. This is what they look like. It's good quality, and I appreciate the people who's been supporting so far. But let's get into this because there's a lot we got to talk about. And when we really start getting into time, when we start talking about it, we have to really start talking about freedom and understand what freedom is. So, land of the free, home of the enslaved, as she said, to the concept of time. Perfect analogy, perfect example for time, because we are a slave to time. And as I touched on in previous videos about time, time is relative, and time is really in the power, in the hands of the person who is basically perceiving it or who is dishing it out, the person who is controlling it. So we got to think about freedom. How are we free? How can we possibly be free in a system that's relegated, that's controlled by time? True freedom means freedom. We don't even understand that certain words that we use, sayings that we say, tells us that we are not free, that we don't have true freedom. So when people say, I don't have time, they are literally saying, I do not have time. So if you don't have time, who does have it? The person that you are indebted your time to. So if it's work, going to go pick up the kids, what have you, your time belongs to that situation. And that's something that we got to understand, about time. You are indebted to time, to the person who is presenting the time to you. So understanding that concept and the system that we are in, to where it's revolving around time. And we got to go back and look at the ancient civilizations and understand how things used to be with time, because there wasn't a such thing. And what has happened, and as we'll get into, is we have been taken out of universal law, universal harmony, which is this cycle of just knowing. That's everything. It's instinct. And we don't understand when we basically observing animals, how that's true nature. It's instinct. Everything is just working as it should. I shouldn't have to tell you something that should be instinctive. It should be within you. You should know it. And we're not doing that no more as human beings. So let's begin to tackle this thing at its basic level first. What we know, what we understand. First off, we know there has been a system put in place. You basically have the powers that be taking over the consciousness of the planet, taking over the control. So that's what it's about. You have to understand time itself is about control. It's about taking away freedom. Plain and simple, to take you out of natural law, universal law, to put you in a control system. Anything that has time put to it is a mechanism of control. It basically takes away your freedom. Why? Because you are now relegated. You are now under the control of that time. Plain and simple. You have to be there at that specific point. So freedom is an illusion. This is why everybody says that. It doesn't exist. No such thing as freedom in a society when the society is ran on time, meaning you are not truly free. At some point, you have to be somewhere. Plain and simple, as long as you are under the control of the system. So with the ancients and the animals, it wasn't about a specific point in time. It was about the system. It was about nature, the way everything was supposed to be. Everything just was. No matter what you do or what you say, the sun is going to rise and it's going to set. Plain and simple. The oceans will move, the tide will be high, the tide will be low. No matter what kind of number, no matter what you do, that's not going to change. That's a constant. It will continue to happen. Now, if you put a name to it, you put a title to a specific moment, you are creating time. This is basically what they did. They said the sun is at its highest point. We're going to call that noon. Now that is noon. Once you do that, now you can create a system and things relative to that point that we call noon. It has a name now. Everything is tied to this point. Now, anything you tie to that specific thing is under your control. Who is controlling time? Your watches. Our watches we call it time. It's not telling us time. We are basically slaves to it. We are basically abiding by it. We are under its control. This watch is good because it's synced with other watches. They're synced to another watch. They're synced to the master watch that we all agree is time. It's just that simple. We all agree that this is the right time. You turn on your TV, you say, okay, I want to make sure my time is correct. What we do, we go look on the internet, we go look at the news, and we all agree that that is real time. Our time is right because it's set to the news time. And we go about our life based upon that understanding. We are just, it's like the money system. We are in agreement that the money is money. It's just paper, but we all agree that it's money. It's the same thing with time. We are in agreement that it is this specific time, and at this specific time, something is supposed to happen. Whether it's natural, sun rising and setting, or something given to us like the game about to come on, power about to come on, or what have you. Then now we are on that schedule, which is why they call it scheduling your programming, your regularly scheduled programming, because they're programming you on schedule at these specific times. These are not plays on words, plain and simple. It's called programming. So the whole notion of the time thing, what I touched on before, is going back to Saturn, Kronos, who is the god of time, which is also Satan. When you understand Satan is time. And it's how you put everything in sync with this system and begin to understand what this stuff really is about. So again, materialism. You have a materialistic world that is controlled by these corporations and companies. Their logo, as I talked about, a lot of these logos have to do with Saturn, Illuminati, what have you. And it's all time and matter controlling it. Time controls matter. We are matter. It's all one big thing rolled into one when you begin to understand it. So you have these corporations that we all work for, or what have you, and they have us under these schedules to produce material, to produce something that's going to contribute to this materialistic world that's going to take away from us time. It's going to cost us time. So time itself, and this is where everybody has it confused, has a dual nature that is not a dual nature. It has a dual nature to where I always talk about time does have a dual nature, meaning can't go up, down, back, forward, what have you. In this instinct, you have time that is controlled by man, controlled by the powers that be, and the time that is basically a power that is basically what causes us to age. And they understand that this is the secret that you're not going to find nowhere else. Nobody else is talking about this. But there's two parts to it. Time that doesn't really exist, that we all agree is time. And then time that is time. That is making you get sick and grow old. And flowers and everything that's withering away and stuff that turns into dust and rubble. But I always say that time is a construct, that it is a creation. It is not dualistic because I'm right. It's really not, because when you really begin to understand the time that we agree is time doesn't exist. And this is where we basically get into the whole Saturn moon thing, what a lot of people talk about our moon basically broadcasting this fictional reality that I call time. And a lot of people are not making that connection to what it really is. How you really get into this thing is touching on energy itself and touching on what's here, what exists, and how it's been here for a long time. So one of the things that's very easy for us to see is the fact that you have trees, rocks, that's organic. You know, a rock is living, whether you understand it or not. But these things can live thousands of years, thousands. And I talked about how trees create their own negative ionosphere, which is why they can live thousands of years, as long as you don't cut them down. In some cases, you cut them down, they grow right back. And we as humans have this infinite energy that we know exists, that regenerates us every single day, that heals us. So the implications is, why is it that we cannot continuously heal the way we heal a cut, the way we heal, a minor bruise, or even a freaking gunshot wound heals? Why can't we continuously heal and keep this process going, forever? If we have this energy to heal that is infinite, that we see has real effects on the body, that really heals the body, why can't we keep this process going? And this is why it gets into this whole matrix, this whole Saturn moon power thing that many people are touching on. Something that really has to do with our energy and it being withered down over time. It's not so much, our energy itself being withered down, but our bodies that is housing the energy. So they have basically effectively figured out a way to age matter, to really affect matter, and to have it dissipate over time. So that is the effect of time. But time as we know it, that we tell time and we talk about and we schedule, is non-existent. It does not exist. For what? For what reason would you want to know what time a program comes on? So there's always a reason when time is involved. And the reason is controlled by a something, a person, a thing. So as I said before, if I wanted to know how long it's going to take you to finish eating your food, for what? The hell I want to know that for? I have to have a reason. So the reason is basically from me. So now I'm controlling the situation with my reason for whatever motive I may have. I might want to know how long it's going to take you to finish eating because I want you to go somewhere with me or do something for me. So there's always a reason and a motive behind the reason. Why else would we ask the question? What is the point of the why? What is the point of the question? So with time, this is what we are introducing when we bring in the concept of time. And we are making everything that's conducive to this time slave to us, to the suggestion, to the situation. So it's the reason behind it all. What is the reason? As I said, to control, to take away freedom. And you have to look at the system and step back. And it's definitely crazy when you pay attention to how everything is put on these schedules to control this cycle that we call life. And it's really deep in ways I'm going to talk about that a lot of people don't get. And if we knew how deep this stuff is and how important it is for us to really take control of our, freedom, not time, really our freedom, then we'll see that the effects of time can be bypassed by consciousness. Plain and simple. And they know this. They understand it. And I'm going to prove it. I'm going to try to prove it. But it's kind of sort of ways we can look at a couple things to see how the effect of time, as far as the power of it, that it's causing aging, that it's causing things to die, that it's causing death, is a construct. It is a creation. So now, when you take it back to the Bible and you put it together about time, death, Satan, make the connection. So time, death, Satan, death, Chronos, God of time, death, Satan, all in one. It's all the same thing. So when you understand, at some point eventually, because of time, you're going to die. Satan deals with death. Satan deals with time. Satan is the God of this world, controlling the time. Everything is put there for a reason to get you to understand this fact. And as we go forward, you'll understand how it really fits in to the way we are living this life right now. And we also have, remember, the Grim Reaper dealing with Chronos, dealing with Saturn, Satan, the Grim Reaper, death. All this stuff goes right into our everyday life, time itself. So the system as we know it, you're born into the system, you are put in school, go to school at a certain time for a certain amount of time. You graduate, you go back into the world to contribute back to the system. Plain and simple. We have our graduations. When you graduate college, graduate high school, you get this square of Saturn, that's always talk about, acknowledging you're on the path of Chronos. You're on the path of Satan. They are controlling all of this. It's in every single thing, as I said before. When you start doing the research, you're going to find Satan everywhere. You're going to find Chronos everywhere, Saturn everywhere. It's in your graduation, boom, which is why I didn't put the Saturn cap on and go down there. I didn't want to participate in the ritual. And all this stuff goes into the same thing. Graduate college, cap and gown, ceremony of Saturn. And now you go on to being able to contribute to the system that's under Satan or Saturn, time that they control. It is not a coincidence that we see the logos resembling Saturn. It's not a coincidence that we see these people seemingly worshiping Satan, worshiping the devil, Lucifer, what have you. They get it. They understand what it's all about. It is simply time and the controller of time that is controlling the system that's controlling us. Plain and simple. So now that you understand that and you start putting everything into context and you understand that, wait a minute, if we didn't have these people telling us to be here, and we didn't have to do these things at a certain time and be here at a certain time and pick this up or watch this or be programmed at this specific time, what would it be? We would be in sync with natural law, universal law. Animals, you think a lion looks at his watch before he goes to hunt. Everything is instinctive. As I talked about before, you can have two lions chasing a buffalo. Next thing you know, buffalo hit the bushes. It's two lions waiting there for him. Ambush. All coordinated without no verbal communication. They are in sync. They understand. They get it. So time, what people will look at it and say, well, without time, we won't be able to do anything. Everything will be out of whack. There wouldn't be any organization. So then you look at the lions and you say, who needs time? That is organized without no watch. When we look at birds flying south for the winter, no watch. They are synced to nature to the earth, and they understand how things are supposed to be when they're supposed to be. It's a feeling, it's a connection. Time is a construct. It is something put there to disrupt nature, to disrupt the connection. And that's what it's about. Taking us out of the connection to universal law, to natural law, the way things are supposed to be. And we're out of sync with everything. We're not in tune with nothing because we're following time, which time is death. And as long as we follow it, you will die. It's just that simple. Then you have to put on to the simple fact that now they have something that can basically induce the effect of time as we know it. So you take the idea of a time, of something withering away over time, and you put it into physical effect, which is basically what they have done with this moon. In the movie Time Machine, they show the part where the moon is destroyed. And it's not a coincidence that the moon being destroyed is in a movie about time. So if you remember later, when he goes like 800,000 years into the future, you have, after the moon is destroyed, they're basically giving you people living back primitively, like with nature. They had a little bit of technology there, giving you that duality I was talking about before. We usually see, we're talking about with Star Wars, you have a little bit of nature, you have a little bit of technology. It's a balance. It's the way things are supposed to be. But the people was basically living, with nature the way they're supposed to be. The moon was gone. It wasn't that control. Even with Star Wars, when you understand what it's trying to tell you, with Darth Vader representing Saturn, wearing the robe, everything that is Darth Vader has to do with Saturn. And then you have the moon, which is Iapetus, basically wreaking havoc on planets. The moon, the Death Star, Death, Saturn, Grim Reaper, what have you, Death Star, wreaking havoc on planets, destroying planets. It's giving you that Saturn control of a moon controlling planets. So the metaphors is there. There's so much out there pointing at it. It's not out of left field that people is making this connection between Saturn and our moon and reality and time itself. A lot of people think it has to do with the moon broadcasting a certain reality that when you go deeper into it, which we'll touch on this down the line, with the whole reptilian thing I talked about before, how we are a creation. So you have a lot of people looking at it as if we were created simply to perceive this reality of materialism. So when you think about it, it kind of goes back into the whole wave function and the whole thing about consciousness collapsing the wave function. So when you're conscious, remember I talked about the whole double slit experiment. When the people was conscious during the experiment, they seen the actual photons, the particles, go through the slits and hit the back of the wall in particle form, solid form. But when they wasn't conscious of the experiment, that the lights or photons pass through the slits in waves, the way it's supposed to be, without consciousness. So it's giving you the hint that, or the possible reality that consciousness, when it's being perceived as in our conscious state on this planet, is somehow being forced to perceive a certain reality, which vis-a-vis would be the protons, solid form, but the unconscious, the true state would be the wave. So they believe we have been manipulated to have basically be perceiving this physical reality. Same thing with sleep. When you are sleeping, when you're in the dream, when you become fully conscious that you are sleeping, you immediately wake up. The dream function is collapsed by your consciousness, and that's by design. So it's a lot to get into when you really start thinking about this stuff deeply. I don't want nobody to really think any of that stuff is spooky talk when they're talking about Saturn and everything like that. I mean, it's a thing we really can't ignore because we see it everywhere throughout the ancient world. And we see all the worship of Saturn, the fact that, they could see it. Can't ignore it. It's just something that we have to go with. But when you look at all these things and, you have the movie Oblivion, the moon is destroyed. I always talk about all the movies that the moon is destroyed for a reason. It's giving us a hint, a clue to something about, the moon affecting us. The whole thing with the moon and the menstrual cycle of the woman, as Maria Gambudis talks about in her books, when that came along, it was change. Mankind was changed. Something changed things. So we have this whole time construct now in a physical sense, as well as in just this control sense. And a lot of people believe It is the moon that is affecting this actual time, but our consciousness can overcome it. So we go back to ancient Kemet, as we always do. And you look at the fact that you have pyramids all over the world producing negative ions, which, as I said, and as science will tell you, with an abundance of negative ions in the atmosphere, it will kill every single virus, all bad bacteria, everything that is causing us to age, giving us the ability to not only meditate better, but to live longer. Plain and simple. So when you understand that fact, you have pyramids everywhere. This is what they was producing. Now they are gone, and now we are subject to time. I want to challenge you, and I've been to Egypt many times, to go to Egypt or go online, find me a hieroglyph of an old ancient Egyptian. You can't find it. Can't find it. Two things I look for: picture of an old ancient Egyptian and a fat ancient Egyptian. Those are two things you will not find. And you got to think about that and what was going on around that time and what they were able to do. Now, we're not saying that they was immortal. They obviously could be killed. There was obviously different rulers that took the throne throughout the dynasties. A lot of them were killed or died in war. It's not too many of them we can find that died of natural causes when you read, so that's something to think about as well. But we understand about the elders and the mystery schools and everything, and 40 years, and that to be a certain age. I mean, it just really makes you think about that process. To have to, be in school for 40 years. Now, that's a lot of time. In our lifetime, spending 40 years on something in a school, I mean, if you don't have another 100 or 200 years to go, you don't want to dedicate, in some cases, more than half your life to this. For what? So we got to really think about it and understand that possibly, which is probably why they dig up the bodies and study the bodies, that the ancient Egyptians was living longer than we are now. It's one of the reasons why they talk about in the Bible people living hundreds of years and everything like that, because it was different. It's a different time. So when you put that in context with the ancient Egyptians and the knowledge that they had, what they was able to do, we can't ignore that, because you just don't see any old Egyptians anywhere. So what was that whole thing about? And we know, once they got their hand on that information, and once they really overthrew the ancient Egyptians, they somehow got this information. Because I always tell people when I get deep into this whole thing, as I say to you guys, this is ancient. This information is ancient. These people we're talking about, going all the way back to the conquest of ancient Kemet, it's the same people today, the same powers that be. There's no way no regular normal person will follow a plan for so long, and not be there. Why would you dedicate your entire life to a plan you would never see come to fruition, unless you're going to be around to see it come true? Something to think about. Also, when you look at the Book of the Dead, Ani's Book of the Dead, or even Hunefra's Book of the Dead, they are not old. When you look at the whole depiction of any of the books of the dead, you look at the person that's going through judgment, they are not old. They are not, withered away and old. It's something you have to pay attention to when we're talking about the effects of time. Did it affect them differently? How was they able to sustain those forms and not be super feeble during the end? What was really going on? It's a big secret, something that they're hiding, a lot they're hiding about ancient Kemet. It's one of the reasons why I always study it and I keep going back, because there's so much there to see. That is one of the mysteries, because you just don't see it. But, as I said, we can't look at it and just, shoo it. We got to really think about that. Book of the Dead, when you're going through Ani's Book of the Dead, Hunefra's or whoever's, you don't see old age. You just don't see it in any of the reliefs from ancient Kemet. So, we look at that. We look at the whole aspect of the biblical part of Saturn, Satan, and how that deals with death and everything like that. So when we know we're touching on Satan, we got to go into the Bible and see what the Bible says about time. And of course, you have Ecclesiastes 3:1-8. That's basically giving you a whole bunch about time. And we also have Psalms 90:12. It says, So teach us to number our days, that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom. And there are many Bible verses that's giving you the opinion, that's giving you basically the teaching of time being a must, a good thing. Time, you must take it in. Time is this. Of course, it's going to promote time, because time is Satan. Time is something that they want us to be subject to, and we got to look at it as it's God's time. You hear people say that, oh, we on God's time. It's God's time. Of course, it's God's time. Satan controls this world. Time controls this world, controls us. So you put all that stuff together. But what I want you to get out of it and understand, you have that very whole thing of time as we are perceiving it, which is non-existent. And you have the effect of what we think of as time, but it is being pushed into our consciousness so that we perceive it a certain way, and we manifest that onto ourselves, because that's exactly what we're doing. So let's go a little bit deeper into this whole thing, the whole, physics or quantum physics of it, to get into it. It's deep. So when you think about this world, physical, this solar system that we in, all this physical stuff that we can see and perceive with human eyes, and with the technology that we're able to use now to also, see with human eyes, because no matter what we create, we're still going to look through it or use that technology with human eyes. So it's still only but so much we can perceive, even with technology. It's just going to be some things that you can't see with human eyes combined with machinery, if you understand what I'm trying to say. So let's just understand one. You have atoms. Everything is atoms. And I talked about how atoms are slowed down when, we should be able to hand pass through our hand pass through all this physical stuff, but it don't, because of the slow vibration that's going on. What's causing that? So when you understand, maybe, this is just theory, that if we go outside of this universe or outside of this, solar system and go further, that we would get to a point of energy. And it's what they call dark matter. Remember, we are only a small slither of the entire universe, and we can only perceive that slither. When you get into dark matter, we don't know what it is. We have no clue. So if we take that as it being, because darkness is light, as it being energy, the way things are supposed to be, the true form of things. And this slither was created for exactly what it is, what we perceive in this physical universe. So in that context, you take time, and time being what is possibly slowing this vibration, this frequency down to a point where we can perceive it. So our consciousness has been somehow tricked and forced to basically survive in this materialistic universe. And we are in these bodies surviving. It's a symbiotic relationship that our energy has with the body. And in order for it to exist, the body has to be right. It has to rely on the physical. So this perception that we're seeing of this physical world, our subconscious, our consciousness is being tricked to perceive it and to have to deal with it, plain and simple. So now the whole trick is for us consciously to understand what's going on and to basically wake up from it, to, as we say, Kundalini rising and open the third eye, and to become aware of everything so that we can escape the cycle of reincarnation into the physical, and we can leave and go forward to, the real universe, what's really going on. So basically what I'm saying is, think about it. If consciousness creates energy, energy creates atoms, atoms creates the elements, these elements come together to make up physical matter, us, the whole nine. If consciousness is the start of it, and we are consciousness, our energy is consciousness, we are consciousness as well, what is stopping us from simply controlling the material, since our consciousness once created it? And again, we know we don't have that connection, we don't have the knowledge to do so. So that's basically what it is. We're being tricked to perceive this material. And since our consciousness has been given a perception of time, because we grow up, we learn about time, we learn about things happening over time. Our brain is bombarded with the succession, the rise and fall of things, people growing old, people dying, things dying. That is all programmed into us, and then program it onto our physical self to understand that as each day passes, we age. We start seeing it on TV, we start perceiving it, we start taking it in, we start seeing our friends get old, we start seeing our actors and what have you get old and die. And that perception we take in and manifest it onto our physical self. And that's time, plain and simple. So when I was talking about going back with the ancient Egyptians, this perception wasn't there. Now, it's a simple way to almost sort of prove this, as I said I would try to do. We have to look at autism. And I have my best friend, his son is autistic. He is aging so slowly. And it's amazing to me. It's just like, wow, how old he is versus how he looks, like a little boy still. And we go back and we look at the fact that, one, that's how it used to be. Go back to the 80s and 90s. These movies wasn't out that's out now. This kind of content that's out wasn't out now. It started to really come late 90s. And we see how what we took in mentally changed us physically. Plain and simple. And that's exactly what's happening. That is time. That is the effect. Now, for autistic kids, most of them, you see some that age fast, some that age slow. In his case, he ages slow. It's because their mind, you have the autistic kids that you see that can go get a job. Those are the ones I'm talking about. Those are the ones that look like they age a little bit faster. They can go get a job, they can go function. Then you have the ones that can't because, they just completely not functioning on the same level as we are. So the autistic kids that basically have issues with the auditory cortex, which is in the frontal lobe, everything is slow. Your whole auditory cortex is dealing with your connection between sound, and words, language. So they're not putting that connection together, which is why they don't talk. Like, my best friend's son he's 11. He's not talking. He doesn't talk. So it's like he looks like he's 6, honestly. He doesn't talk. He has that issue with his auditory cortex, and he's not making that connection with sound and words, language itself. So the stuff that he's watching, he's not taking it in like a normal kid. He's not comprehending Friday and comprehending the music that's out there that is causing us to age, to grow. So what I'm saying is, then you have to understand, it's going to be tough for people to accept. Time is a creation, but it's a manipulation of our consciousness that is affecting our body. Plain and simple. That's what it is. So you would say to yourself, well, what about everything else that ages? And it's the same type of situation. One, when you look at the fact that what are we seeing that is not really aging? And everything that you can see produces negative ions. You have water, old, super old. Remember, they did tests on some water from a couple of the oceans and dated it older than the planet. Think about that. And their whole reasoning behind that was, at some point when Earth was molten, a big meteor, ice ball meteor, that's probably been out there for who knows how long, crashed into the planet, and it was big and then melted and helped cool the planet. Talked about this before too. But negative ions, trees, negative ions, those things are old. Rocks, their composition, they are basically living. Negative ions. You have them when they are around certain areas, oceans, waterfalls, trees, negative ions. And where else you're going to find rocks? In the ground. Same thing. Us. We're not producing those negative ions. We don't do that naturally. And I also challenge you to go out into the forest now. Go out to any type of park that is completely public, that is not being, if you have something near you, that is not being maintained by human beings. When was the last time you walked through a forest or just a park area that's not really being maintained, and seeing a whole field of just dead grass or just dead flowers when you see it. So you got to understand, if that grass and those flowers are near trees, they are being protected by negative ions. So because we don't understand history and it's distorted, and a lot of stuff is hidden from us, we don't know if the whole negative ions was created in response to time or response to what the moon is doing. We don't really understand what was before what or what was happening, but we do know that they did this for a reason. They did it, and when we look at the benefits of negative ions, you have to think that's probably one of the reasons why. For meditation or what have you, for whatever reason, all we know is when you have this negative ions, the body is able to be sustained for a long period of time, a long time. And the whole implications of it is when you look at the energy factor that we have and how we're able to heal ourselves, we shouldn't die. I've talked about this before. There is no way we should die unless you get your brains blown out by a gun or something like that that's going to completely destroy the vessel and you got to start all over again. But us in this form shouldn't be possible. Our energy should always regenerate, and with the help of the negative ions, immortality shouldn't be, some fairy tale. So when we go look, and we look at these moments in time that this system has picked out for us, all these holidays or what have you, when they do certain things, the so-called Illuminati and all these secret societies are about time. They're about timing, numbers, things that happen at a certain time, a certain period. All of these things, when you do the research, you'll see will correspond to celestial events. Celestial events, things that's happening in space, things that's happening with the planets. A lot of it going around Saturn, the sun, the moon, the things that was worshipped in the ancient world as the gods. So you start to connect those things, start to put them all together. Let's talk about before, God. The Bible says God is light. What is light? Light is knowledge. What is Lucifer? Knowledge. Lucifer is light. So if God is light and Lucifer is light, they're the same thing. I always tell people, when you understand about Lucifer or Satan in the church, when you go to church, you're worshiping Satan. When you sit there before the choir, that whole scene of the choir basically playing music to influence the congregation is in the Bible, and it's in ancient biblical texts as Satan's control of the congregation, Satan's job of giving the word to the people from God. It's an aspect of Satan, and they know that, plain and simple. So before, and one of the reasons why Constantine changed it, they was worshiping Saturn on Saturday. Now you have Jesus, which is the sun. It's Sunday, Jesus worship, which when you make the connection, same thing. Satan, Jesus, God, Jesus, Satan, God, same beings. All of it goes into the same realm of time and control. Churches controlling you, manipulating you, time, the system, everything goes into this one box that you can look at and understand, what's going on. So now when you grasp all this, this brings us into universal law. What is universal law? Truth, ma'at, plain and simple. There are rules. But we fail to understand truth. Everything is so fake now. Everything is so watered down and diluted. Truth is like, And we have this whole thing where we think it's okay to lie in certain cases, not realizing these cases shouldn't exist. It shouldn't be there. So it's like a person will say, well, ain't nothing wrong with telling a lie. What if I know this dude is going to kill this girl if I tell him that she's cheating? I should lie to him and tell him that she's faithful so he don't kill her, as if that makes up for everything. No, he shouldn't be killing people. There's falsity there. There's a wrong still there. Truth is pure. True is true. Truth is universal law, and it's fixated into every single thing. When you make agreements and deals, there's a truth to the agreement. There's a bond. Truth is universal. Everything is truth, plain and simple. And then we have been submersed into a culture and a system that is completely against truth, against Ma'at, against universal law, and we have been subject to it. And this is the problem that we're facing right now, because everything is going against it. Everything is false. So what do they say about Satan? He's the father of lies. Plain and simple. The father of lies. The father of falsity. That's what's happening right now. We have all this fake history, this fake culture, fake everything that's run by this system that is Satan, the father of lies. Plain and simple. When you start to really understand it, you can see it's seeped into everything. Lies, falsity, things that shouldn't exist, that only exist based upon lies. So whenever you're going against universal law, whenever you're telling a lie, whenever you're destroying the truth, that is a negative energy that is being produced. Plain and simple. And it's huge. It's everything now. So even when you understand the part about the Bible, when it's talking about, the thoughts and imagination of men and the future being so evil and things being so bad, is when the end of the world is supposed to come. It's universal law. It's falsity. Everything. The news, lies. TV, lies. I mean, look at these people. Look at the powers that be and what they do. Let's take it back. Go back to ancient Kemet. What have they done? They have taken it over, stepped into the position of as Pharaoh in ancient Kemet. You ain't a Pharaoh. You wasn't crowned king. But they got rid of the history. They stepped in there as if they were the Egyptians. They were this history. It's false. That's the first step. Then they went about creating falsity, fake gods, getting rid of the old gods, the stuff we used to worship, the heavens, gone. False gods now. Fakery, foolery, so on and so forth. The Catholic Church. All these billions and trillions of dollars built around falsity. They did that. We go fast forward. You look at their whole perception. Everything that we are immersed in right now and dealing with is based off falsity. So you have movies. What are movies? Fictional things. You get some based off real life, but they're not exactly based off real life. Moments in the movie, it's not exactly like how it happened. Falsity. Everything they do is based on fakery, theft, falsity. We all immersed into the movie world. Fakeness. People are actors. False. This is not really happening. This is a mimic, a falsity of a truth, or just a lie you just made up. It's the same thing with music. You rapping about killing these people you never killed and doing the stuff you never did. It's fake. It's false. And it may seem so petty to people who don't really get and grasp how the only thing that should exist is truth. Plain and simple. The reason why everything is messed up, because truth is not being told. Ma'at is not being honored. Truth is gone. Look at what they've done to women and how they stole their position and place and power where they're supposed to be. We're talking about the God. Look at her. Look at the state of the black woman. I mean, it's crazy. And when you really get into the teachings of the ancient Egyptians and the ancients, and you really look at how things was, it's crazy. It's almost scary that things have been intact this long. So when you think about nature, universal law, natural law, what we're seeing out in nature with the animals, they're not punching no clock. They're doing what they're supposed to do, what they should be doing naturally. It's a natural occurrence in accordance with universal law. Like I said, lion not gonna get locked up for eating, a cub. It's not gonna happen. It's in accordance with universal law. So it's easy to see how they have us against universal law by obeying this whole construct of time. We are out of sync with natural law, universal law, because we're on time that doesn't even exist. It's not even real. We are completely going against nature, universal law. And when you pay attention to what it's talking about, it's freedom, natural law, do as thou wilt. Plain and simple. Freedom. This is why it gets into all that. Do as thou wilt. Freedom. time takes away freedom. You are not free. You're a slave to time, to the system. Nobody is free, plain and simple. So at some point, as long as we're not in accordance with natural law and in tune with the universe, there's going to be issues. Whatever's going on has it under control, but it's so they can control us while they stay in accordance with natural law, while they do their rituals, while they sacrifice us on time in accordance with universal law, while they do stuff on this planet the right way because they can get away with it in accordance with universal law. We are subjects, subject to them, to their will. We are game, plain and simple. They can do what they want to us because we're out of sync. We're not protected by universal law. We're not protected by nature. We're not protected the way we should be, and we're not protecting ourselves. We just sheep. It's just that simple. So meditation help you get back in sync, help you wake up and to perceive this falsity, to not be on their time, to do as you want, do as thou wilt, to really understand what you're supposed to be doing, and to not be on this clock, to not be going to work and punching some clock and being in this slave system. Freedom. Again, my whole point, personal economics, is to give you that freedom, to learn how to use the system that is inevitable, that is going to be here. There's no way around it. Don't get caught up with what these people talking about, that is going to be some big kumbaya revolution that's going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's not. These people are not going to wake up. I mean, it's hard to say it, but it's the truth. And I want to be honest. I don't see it. So be smart and learn how to manipulate this system to work for you so that you have freedom, plain and simple, to be able to do what you want to do, what you need to do, and at the same time get in sync, get your energy right, and build yourself up spiritually, then physically, mentally, the whole nine, to be in accordance with universal law and to really not be subject to their time, plain and simple. A lot of times you guys see me recording, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, what have you, what time, and I don't know time schedule. Unfortunately, we all have to be subject to time at some point because we have to deal with the world and their time. That's the only time you should be subject to it, is when it's going to benefit you, basically, plain and simple. But it's a falsity. It's going against Ma'at, it's going against universal law, it's going against the rules, and there's a lot more to this that I have a whole other video coming up, but we're going to get into it. But it's against these things. And truth is righteousness. It's things fixed. It's things correct. It's balance. Plain and simple. Balance. And truth, everything's going right. The system is balanced. You're balanced. The energy is balanced. And you can move forward. This is what you want. So when you're dealing with universal law, you're dealing with truth. When you're in accordance with truth, then, this basically goes into the different aspects of universal law. Some people say it's 7 different universal laws, 12, even 88. But, you have things like the law of attraction, talked about this before, the law of polarity, oneness, gender. And these are things, no matter how many other ones you want to get into, these are things that is dealing with real life that we can see. There are truths. Like with gender, of course, it's gender in everything. There's a dualistic nature. Gender in flowers, minerals, energy itself, positive, negative. Gender in so many different things, polarity, oneness, attraction, equal, opposite. And it's the same thing when you look at just that whole theory of equal and opposite reaction. When you just try to input time in there, it doesn't work. It doesn't fit. We can't reverse time. We haven't seen time reverse. We haven't seen time in a natural sense at all. Plain and simple. So, you have to really think about it when you see people try to perceive time, in the lifespan of something. And you have to ask yourself, did the lifespan, eclipse or, die out because we perceived it? if you never perceive the time or the lifespan of this flower or what have you, would it have died? As I said, go out to any forest, anywhere USA or anywhere on the planet, and just pick me out that one just completely dead, rotted flower, like we see when we try to put a rose in our living room, or when people don't grow their flowers in their backyard, right? You know, you see them just die. When you go out into nature, so, you know, how long this stuff's been here? Surrounded by trees. You see, it doesn't have that effect of time. And then, we don't know if our perception is going to cause things to happen. So consciousness, itself is, as I said, being manipulated. And we are the consciousness of the planet, and it's us that's being manipulated to affect everything else. Plain and simple. And this is how I said before, Egyptians fell. The whole consciousness of the planet shifted and changed. Luckily, they fled out of Kemet, went into Lower Africa, went into different parts of Africa, and began building kingdoms and civilizations there, spreading the information, the consciousness, so on and so forth. As I said, when they figured that out, this is why we was enslaved, because it was passing down the knowledge, passing down the consciousness, and they had to breathe that out of us. It's just that simple. That's what they did. That's what slavery was all about. Breathing out that consciousness and then controlling it. So now it's to the point where they are controlling this consciousness. And the times that they let us out was only to control our consciousness, to control the shift and the way things was going. Do you honestly believe that they didn't want to keep us in slavery? That they couldn't keep us in slavery. Think about that. Think about the way things was going. Hundreds of years, everything you got us in slavery got us. Why let us out? 2, you have to understand the thing that they hide, and why I dig up in these Moors when they start talking about this crap, how we were used to build the country. Our consciousness, not only that, but our slavery, our energy, our effort was put into building the country. Plain and simple. Our knowledge went into building their entire empires. Their renaissance came from us. Everything came from our knowledge. And they let us go into a place where the knowledge was lost to us because they had it all. And they put it into their people and grew their knowledge. So now we're looking at them as being the smartest people, and we got to acknowledge such and such birthday and philosophies and things that these people said that they stole from us. And that's basically what it is. That's what's happened. So, time, this whole falsity of it is just this whole creation that the powers that be used and put into this system for us to be, enslaved to. So to step back and look at what I just said and what I'm implying outwardly as, predicted, well, I should say demonstrated by a lot of people. Outwardly, you will have to picture looking up at the moon, and if you could perceive what's happening and see it, seeing this energy wave basically over the planet that is manipulating our energy to perceive matter, to see what we're seeing. So our energy is being tricked outwardly, to perceive what's going on. So, to affect energy in the physical, that's what this moon is basically doing. To affect energy in the physical on a conscious level. That's what I should say. Excuse me. To affect it on a conscious level. And the only way we can do anything is to go within, plain and simple. So when you grasp that concept of consciousness being affected on a conscious state outwardly. So as we're perceiving the world right now, being affected outwardly, consciously, so that when we sleep, we are our true self. It is the subconscious taking over, because the conscious self is sleep now. The you is sleep, it's unconscious. You're seeing with your subconscious self that is giving the information to your consciousness, which is why sometimes you can't even remember the dream, because it didn't pass along that information. So when you go to sleep, when you go within, Now you're inside, you're within. You're not dealing with the outside conscious world, but the inside subconscious that's taking place. The only place where you can, 1, regenerate, 2, heal, which is basically the same as regenerate, but really get that connection and that training to have your subconscious program to help your consciousness develop and grow to become one, so you can basically become the powerful you're supposed to become, to escape, the effects, what's going on, to be powerful enough that when you are, out of this body, you are not forced to reincarnate. Because that's another thing I've talked about before, how the moon is supposedly what's causing the reincarnation cycle. Saturn, the moon. It's a lot to look into. And I'm telling you, like, y'all know me, I don't get into the spook stuff too much. But when you do enough research and you get into this stuff too much, I didn't want to believe it until I just keep seeing it. And it all fits. It sounds crazy, but trust me, it's the truth. It's the truth, or else I wouldn't talk about it. It's what's happening. And there's a lot more to it. There's a lot of little things that would raise a lot more questions if we get into it, but we're going to take it step by step. So kind of sort of to think about it is, matter being forced into this, crazy slow vibration, which is, an energy doing that, at death, when your energy comes out, if it's not strong enough or conscious enough to fight through that, then it's going to be forced back into the slow vibration, into, material matter. But then you also have to think about the consciousness of the subconscious, understanding and knowing it's not as powerful as it needs to be. Therefore, it should reincarnate and restart the cycle anyway. There's a lot of different things you got to look at and think about when you start thinking about that process, like what is actually going on. And it's why a lot of people look at it as this being some kind of prison or training ground for energy, because there's so many different aspects to the whole thing that we got to look at and really think about, why is that the way it is. So we know Saturn went retrograde back in April. A lot of other planets supposed to be going retrograde as well. You have a lot of these, mystics and so-called psychics or what have you, people that's really into this stuff, talking about the effects of Saturn going retrograde and how it's going to be slowing down time. You have a lot of the Buddhists talking about how people are going to be able to make up for karmic consequences. And if you are perceiving time, like if this year has gone by fast for you, you on track. You spiritually cool. If it's going slow, if you feel like this year is going slow, you need to meditate. You running wrong. You being controlled too much. But if this year feels like it's going by fast for you, you're on the right track. And I think for the most part, most of the people anybody that's watching me should feel that way. If you've been watching for a while, you should be conscious enough to feel it, how the speed of how things are moving right now. And that's for another time. We're going to get into that. But yeah, Saturn going retrograde. And I don't really get into, that whole cosmic, astrology stuff and everything like that. It's not hard to figure out what these people are doing as far as astrology and understanding how certain times of the year affect certain people. That's the easy thing to figure out. But time, that's the key part. Time slowing down, people are making a connection with Saturn and time and understanding how time is going to be different. But in understanding now, anytime when you're dealing with anything that has to do with time or Saturn, pay attention to the elite, pay attention to what's going to be happening in the world, because they always do stuff to coincide with celestial events, and they catching on. They know we caught on to the stuff, so they careful about what they do. This whole cycle for them, this whole system for them has been working so well, and we are so caught up in so many different things. And as I said, we just got to pay attention to be more diligent about what's going on as Black folks and not allow it to affect us, and pay attention to the traps and look at what they're doing. So right now the tactics is fear. They scaring the hell out of Black people. They trying to get us to become militant or what have you, or to do something. They're controlling us to control everybody else, it seems. So as far as this whole racial tension thing. So, you got the purge, the first purge coming out, 4th of July. Independence Day has to do with independence. While we were slaves, had to do with a lot of black people in that movie, which is weird. Why the first purge is doing black folks. You have a lot of black people panicking. You know, purge black people. What the hell is that about? They're gonna start killing black folks. They already been killing us. You know, pay attention. But don't get caught up in a lot of this stuff and get emotionally tied to what they putting out, to what Draco is putting out, what the elite's putting out. Don't get caught up in all that stuff. It's manipulation. Deception. Be conscious, pay attention to what it's saying, and read in between the lines. It's not, and I talked about this before, it's not going to happen to where there's soldiers and boots on the ground, military Humvees, and them just going through the streets killing black folks, unless we make that happen. And that's the whole thing. We got to be really careful about what we're doing and not fall for what they're trying to push out of us. Don't make them right. These people are sick and crazy. They made us ghetto. They made us the way we is. This culture, everything that they created, they made us this way. And now they're about to basically sacrifice the people who can't switch back, who can't, basically switch around and become refined, become more white. So as I said, they're coming for the poor, they're coming for the hood. Pay attention to that. That's what it's about. Purge and everything. You can't figure it out. Look at those movies. Coming for the poor, coming for the ghetto. And that's that message of blackness they're trying to give people. Like, pay attention. The whole thing with Chicago and Trump, talked about this before. Really pay attention to what's happening. You have time, a certain amount of time, to get yourself together. If you're living in any kind of ghetto or what have you, be successful, do what you can do to get out of there and not be near that. First of all, the energy alone is just so bad. I mean, success is going to be so hard to come by when you're surrounding yourself by such negative energy. That's why it's hard for people to get out the hood. They said, they stay there. That's why we always celebrate when we get out, because it's so hard to get out. So definitely get away from that negative energy and get out if you can. It's not as hard as people think it is. Whole personal economic series. Again, I did that to really help people make money, to really help people figure out an alternative way to have success and to get out their situation. And that's just a first step. There's other things that you can do that you'll figure out on your own to change the situation, to get you out of those neighborhoods. So I definitely want you guys to be aware of what they're doing, and that these people are not organic. They're not really with truth. They want you guys to be against truth, ma'at, universal law, and go against it. Now, because they are not, living natural, living the way they're supposed to, they are subject to time as well, plain and simple. So they have schedules, they have things they have to be on point with, and they have to keep us within this time schedule long enough for them to complete their agenda, plain and simple. But as they can see and as they know, people are waking up. There's certain things that they cannot do. It's just like with the Buddhists, karmic consequences. Just like with the voodoo priests, they don't do any bad voodoo. Same type of situation. You do bad, you put out bad, you'll get it right back. They're in the same situation. They understand true universal law, and they know if there is no contract, if there is no agreement, they can't do what they want to do. They can't just go ahead and commit these crimes against natural law, universal law, and get away with it. Plain and simple. So, the system that they're trying to create, this world they're trying to create, is going to be completely inorganic, not natural. And they're showing us with the movies and, this whole technological feature that we headed towards, that they're going against natural law, against nature. And they're already affecting ecosystems and destroying forests, and they have caused the extinction of many species, animals. At the same time, wiped out civilizations of people, and all to go towards this plan that they have been working on for thousands of years. So, this is just a small part of it. But throughout the last few hundred years, we have more than ever been subject to time, to their system. And if we don't understand what that is and how it's working, it's going to continue to dominate our life. So again, be on their schedule. Even something as innocent as celebrating your birthday, that point in time, when you've been born, that's to get you into the familiarity of holidays. Celebrate your birthday, that makes you understand more why you should celebrate this holiday on this day. And then you add a little bit of fun behind it. Of course, this date, we want the energy to be pointed towards something specific. Halloween, Christmas, what have you, Easter. We want the energy to be focused on this day at this time for whatever reason. And it's the norm now. Like, even people who call themselves conscious, even people who trying to wake up and understand, can't help but fall back into the norm of holidays and everything else. It's been programmed into us. It's a schedule that we're on. But the energy aspect of it, a lot of people just don't understand. So the more you look at it and the more you study, you'll see why all these secret societies, whenever people really get into it, they always put them with dealing with Satan, which is Saturn, plain and simple. All of them goes back to Saturn. No matter what secret society you're talking about, they all worship they worship Saturn. So when you start getting into the terminology, the numerology, the symbolism of Saturn, it's easy to see. We know what 33rd degree Freemasons, 3 times 3 gives us 9. 9 is the number for Saturn, which is why you got the whole Saturn 9 thing going on. This is the number for Saturn, the seal of Saturn, which I talked about before, where you understand the seal surrounded by the circle being 360 degrees, which gives us 9, but also 360 degrees give us infinity. It's never ending. If you look up infinity in Latin, it means not finished. End means not. Finite means finished. So not finished. So you have the infinite circle around the seal of Saturn, which the seal of Saturn gives us the 3 squares. We know when you go ahead and connect them like this, we see the Tree of Life 1, which is basically the seal of Saturn, is the Tree of Life, plain and simple. And you can get the 3 squares. And from the 3 squares, we know that it's basically connecting the Tree of Life to give us Saturn being at the top of that level of the Tree of Life. And some Tree of Life models, you'll see Saturn at the top and off to the side. But this is what it's talking about. Saturn rules Earth. It rules this planet, which is why it's there. Time is everywhere. It is time. Time is really hard for you not to put with Saturn when you understand. So time is money. We know about this, the whole sound symbol for linear time, which linear time would be a straight line. And since time is given to us in this wave, you will see the wave symbol with linear time. If you turn it to the side, basically you get the money sign. So time is money. A lot of people point this stuff out. This stuff is all over YouTube. You'll see it everywhere online. A lot of people are getting and understanding where this stuff comes from and what it means. But a lot of people are failing at connecting the dots with time itself and Saturn. I mean, it's just hard for a lot of people to fathom time being sort of an energy that is basically being, broadcast to our energy, to our material consciousness, I should say, how we're perceiving this conscious world on a materialistic level. And it's basically what it's about, which is why time is money. So you have Saturn controlling money, money controlling materialism. It's all about materialism, as I said. What are all these corporations and everything about? Making material that's going to keep us grounded. All of the entertainers that's under Saturn, it's about materialism, looking a certain way, having certain materialistic things. Money, Saturn, plain and simple. Dealing with the physical. You can't escape it. It's all tied in. It's all together. So the more you see it, the more you start connecting the dots, it's plain to see. The key, again, where the Buddhists are on point with this whole thing, is ridding yourself of that materialistic, emotion, taking control of it, not completely separating yourself from it, but having control of it, balance, understanding the material is needed for the spiritual to grow, and having that understanding and moving forward. But when you look at a lot of these, secret societies and the stuff they're talking about, It's all going back to Saturn. It's going back to time and going back to these beings that's running the whole thing. And again, it's a question you got to ask yourself. I consider a lot of these people to be smart, intelligent people. It's something promised to these people for them to trade. A lot of them probably believe it's just, no way we can win. And the more you study everything and look at it, whoever this is, whatever it is that's controlling, is really, really cautious, afraid, and scared of us waking up. And the foot is on our throat so hard they won't move an inch, because they know what can happen if we could turn this thing around tomorrow if we woke up. They understand that. So you'll hear a lot of people talking about time being fourth dimensional, that is controlling Earth, which is on the third dimension. And because it's something that is spiritual or energetic, we can't perceive it in this third dimension. Only our energy can, which will be our subconscious, the true power that can perceive this fourth dimensional time. That's basically messing with this materialistic, vibration, slowing it down so we can perceive it as we are perceiving it. And these people crafty, they smart at what they do. And when they came here, and seeing the civilizations doing what they was doing, and I believe they created the conflict that basically caused the so-called war and caused things to be out of whack. Whoever or whatever they are, I always say, because it's something out there. I don't care how crazy you think I sound, it is not from this planet. It just can't be. It's just too much going on. It's too much. No human could follow this for so long. It's something that's behind them. And it seems as if the leaders of the world have agreed that, the white man is in charge, because whoever's behind them is powerful. That's what it seems like. So this also brings me into another point that I had a friend of mine, who shall remain nameless because of who they are, who was hinting, basically we was talking about the whole aspect of our government being at this secret war with these so-called beings. A lot of people talk about this when you start getting into esoteric circles and talking about this so-called war between, it seems as if our leaders or people in power are fighting against whatever this is and have been doing so for a long time. But of course, they wouldn't let us know for fear of panic and us throwing the system out of whack and alerting these so-called beings into what's going on. That could be possible. And the reason why I say that is because just a lot of the hints that we get in movies, like Destroy the Moon, just a big one. I'm shocked they even would do something like that or put that in movies. There's like a lot of hints, it seems, that we get through movies of them trying to speak to each other in codes about stuff that could be possibly happening, or stuff that could be up and coming, to keep it from out of the eyes of the public. I believe back in the 40s, 50s, or whatever, when it was, they were shooting nuclear weapons. I talked about this, I think it's in Saturn Satan, when they was launching nuclear weapons into the Earth's ionosphere or the atmosphere for some reason. And it's like, what was that about? It's a lot of stuff that happens that, points to, it seems like they're at war with whatever this is. And the Earth is trying to come together. These people trying to come together and figure something out. Not to try to make them look like good guys or what have you, like they're trying to do something good for us. I think they understand life and they look at things completely different from us. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but it's just a lot of things you got to look at. The whole Admiral Byrd situation was huge. Australia, and them going down to Australia, but Antarctica, them going down there, Admiral Byrd coming out saying everything that he said about what was down there, the resources that was down there, then them all of a sudden coming together and saying, you know what, we're going to all agree not to ever go down there. That was huge to me. It was like, what was that about? What could have scared them to the point for them to come together and agree as a global world? When does this happen? As the world, all the leaders of the world came together and agreed, we're not going to go down there. What was down there? So it's as if, whoever's running things said, hey, don't ever come back here, get the fuck out of here. And now it's blocked off. We can't go. Nobody can go. Another thing about freedom, we're not free. We can't travel and go anywhere we want to go. Plain and simple. It's just, we're not free. And that's just something we really got to grasp. And it's hard to when you can walk out your door, but it's only a certain point you can go to. You're not free. But the signs, the symbols, everything is out there to tell you exactly what's going on and what time really is. And you really got to start digging into this stuff and looking at it and taking the hints and the clues about time, because it's bullshit. It is bullshit. It is an agreement that we have to follow our watch, follow our clocks, follow dates, follow times, follow schedules in order for us to be controlled, easily, very easily. And that's basically what it is. So again, we always got to look for the why, the why about time, the why. What is the reason? Why? Why do you want to be here at this time? Why do I have to do this on this date? Why do we have to celebrate this on this specific date? Why? For what? What reason? And who is the reason going back to? Who is it going back to? And why is it going back to them? For what? What is the purpose that they want us to do these things at this specific time? And there's the controller right there. So when we look at everything, all these holidays and everything that we celebrate, it's going back to a governmental structure that, the government agrees that we should follow. And the corporations and businesses follow, and they put out things for us to follow and buy to support the specific thing, the holiday or what have you. So this is what we're doing. And this is time controlling us, and us letting time control us, and us thinking it's something that is real as far as on, a level that we can perceive, because we can't really perceive it. And it's not real. It's not. As I said, you have the fake nature of it, and then you have the whole aspect that is affecting this physical, conscious appearance or perception that we have. It's tough to really think about. A lot of people are not going to be able to wrap their head around what I'm saying. Some of you guys will, but it's basically what it is. It's tough to really explain. It is a control over our spiritual or energetic consciousness on a physical level, on this physical third dimensional world, to perceive things a certain way, plain and simple. So our energy inwardly can get it and not be affected by it. I talked about this way back when I first started. I believe Saturn Satan 1 at the end. We got into it. And that's on YouTube, about time. As I said, you get sleepy at night. Something that's draining your energy, because we constantly have to deal with our energy being bombarded on this conscious physical level, and it tires us out, because we're dealing with this effect of time and this conscious level perceiving this materialistic world. And it's tiring to the body, because it's affecting us. When we go to sleep inwardly, the subconscious heals that, gives us the energy. It's infinite because it can do that. It's not subjected to the outward materialistic world, because it's spiritual. If you understand what I'm saying? So it can do what it's supposed to do. And until we can make that connection to unite masculine, feminine, yin, yang, or what have you, we're not going to be able to escape the effects of time, and we'll be stuck into the reincarnation cycle. Seen a lot of videos, a lot of people talk about time and play with it, not really grasp how serious it is. If anybody is discussing time and they don't bring up Saturn and Kronos and Satan and everything like that, they bullshitters. They lying. You can go ahead and turn on Ted or whoever and listen to these guys talk. They're not going to talk about Kronos. They're not going to talk about Saturn. They're not going to talk about what we talked about in this video. They'll give you a bunch of shit that sounds good that has nothing to do with what's really going on, because what's really going on, these people can't handle it. They can't fathom it. A lot of you can't fathom it. A lot of you are skeptical about the whole thing. But when you go do the research, it fits. You'll see it clear as day, especially when you just look at the seals alone. And they use those seals to correspond with so many different things, as I talked about with the seal of Saturn. We see it in gates. Gates lock you in, hold you back. Nets, same thing. The cell towers, same seal is in there. Has to do with transmitting sound waves or waves, energy. It's all there. The Lord of the Rings, that whole concept, Saturn. I mean, it's just, they throw it into your face. And it's hard to see, because stuff that seems so simple and easy that we can put together, we don't connect the dots with actual stuff, because we think it's too easy. So a lot of people going to get it, a lot of people not. But the main thing, what I want people to understand and come away with, is how this stuff is not real. You know, it's an agreed upon thing, just like money. Time is an agreed upon thing that we all agree on and we agree to follow. Money is a paper, it's nothing. That we agree it's worth something and we all agree to use it. It's not really real. It's not really any value to it. Time is money. Just that simple. So the whole notion of, infinite time, infinite, awareness or what have you, infinite energy, all that stuff, as I said, it's within us. We have that understanding built within us of what's supposed to be. Everything else is a distraction. Plain and simple. It is to distract you, basically, keep you blind long enough for them to do whatever they need to do. Because whatever they are, they doing something, is something that is really, serious to their existence, I believe. And it's they're running from something, or they're trying to do something before a certain amount of time. This is what it seems like when you look at it, because it's just, it's a lot of things just don't fit. It seems like something is coming, and they're trying to either prepare for it or escape it or not let it happen, something. And they got us running around, it's ring around the rosy. What do we got to do now to keep these people occupied long enough to get this shit done? So, LeBron going to the Lakers, sports, movies, everything. Anything to just throw your mind off of dealing with them, Marvel, superheroes, cartoons, whatever it is, distraction, black, white, whatever. Keep these people distracted long enough. And the distraction has been so long that we just, it's normal to us. It's fun. We like the distraction. But it's like, it's so much of it, and it's just so much, fun and everything, that we can't perceive that something bad is coming. Something is about to happen. Because we're so blinded by what they're giving us. Now, the big problem is how you are perceiving it, how you looking at things. See, you may be looking at wealth and money, Bentleys and big giant buildings, cars and all the stuff that's here as being serious, and not understanding that these beings, whatever they are, don't give a shit about none of it. It's a distraction. They built the Twin Towers to knock them down. Remember that. So you may think, oh, well, they doing all this and all this stuff is happening. They're not going to do nothing or nothing. They don't care about none of that. They will blow all this shit up to achieve their agenda. Plain and simple. We got to understand that. We got to realize that it's a distraction to keep us distracted from whatever's coming. Plain and simple. Personally, not going to be in our lifetime. So you might live this life and reincarnate back here to deal with it later, some of you. But I don't see it happening anytime soon. They have obstacles in their way. Another thing to get into down the way. It's stuff that's coming, universally, spiritually, that's coming to basically help us. And I'm really interested in seeing how they're going to get around the coming energy, that's getting ready to come. It's tough. I mean, when you start putting it together, and it's something people put out there. As I said, when you're doing research, some of the stuff is going to fit, some is not. The stuff that overwhelmingly fits is what you got to go with it. You got to go with it because it fits, it makes sense, and it's just nothing else. They smart, but they ain't that damn smart to put all this stuff out there. And they can't really fucking hide it. It has to be shown. They have to put it out there. That will go against universal law if they don't. It has to be shown to us because we're going to manifest it. We're going to make it happen, and they know that. So, it's important that people really start to pay attention to what's coming up, and don't be too alarmed by it, to tell you the truth, because honestly, Kim Jong-un and Trump coming together, that's a done deal now. We not perceiving any war with them now. Still got to worry about Iran, Russia, but that's supposedly squashed, maybe. And we'll see what happens. It's just a lot to look for when you start getting into this research. So now, again, I want to thank you guys for taking the time to watch and support, purchase and everything. I really appreciate the support. A lot more coming from me, a lot more on YouTube. Definitely going to start putting a lot more stuff out. And it's so many questions, because if you watched all the videos, that's one of the constants that people always have in the back of their mind is time. Like, what is that? You know, time has always been on people's mind. What is it really? And this is basically what it is. Agreed upon thing. Time is money. We're agreeing upon it. We agree to sync our watches with their time, making them the controller, us the slave to their time that we wear on our wrist, like cuffs. You know, we're a slave to it. So we got to follow it. We got to abide by it. You got to go to work at that time, be there at this time. They did that structure that way for a reason. Now it's control. They know where you already know where you're going to be. Kids going to be in school. Adults going to be at work. Bums going to be on the street. You know, unemployed people going to be here or there or what have you. It's control. Time is control. That's it. It's not freedom. We are not free in this country. America is not free. There's no place free on this planet unless you want to go out in the wilderness and live off the land and not deal with nothing. Only way you're going to be free until they come to and take that land. You know, so you can't really put your head down and go run away. Eventually, you're going to have to face what's happening. So, you know, it is what it is, but there's no freedom. There's no time. The effects of what we perceive as time, it's not time either. It's an effect. It's death, basically what it is. So you connect that with Satan itself because it's death. It's making stuff end. That's all it is. Taking material and putting it to its end. We call it time, but it's not. It's a weapon. It's a weapon. From Saturn to our moon on us. Just that simple. And it's only affecting people who are not super spiritually connected. All we need to do is simply wake up, acknowledge what's happening, take action, meditate, and work towards getting where we need to be. Physically, spiritually, and people just not taking it serious. And it is what it is on there. People are not taking all of it serious, and they're not until shit hit the fan. It's gonna be too late by then. So it is what it is. But thank you guys for taking the time to watch, purchase, and support. See you guys next video. A lot more to come. Definitely support by the close if you can, and a lot more to come. See you next video. Thanks for watching.